We are going to start by talking about Rio Ngumoha. 39.1% of the vote. No, boss. 38 put him in boss, 39 put him in sound. So he just ends up in sound, Errol. Okay. He's involved in the first goal. He was Liverpool's most creative outlet, and it was another good performance, even defensively, which he's been criticised for at times. Rio did his job. We'll talk about the substitution in a moment, because it's one of the major talking points of the game and actually of Liverpool's season in a whole, really. But Rio ended up in sound. He had a good game.
He did have a good game. It was a solid game from Rio, and I think, you know, the point where I would pick up first would be the improvement, the stark improvement in his defensive responsibilities. Right from the first whistle, really, he was involved in getting back, supporting the team in the defensive phases. He was getting back and helping Kirkers 1v1 at times. Gusto was over there and he was working really hard defensively. So, okay, it's not always going to be perfect, and it's a part of his game which he's going to have to learn, adapt, get under his belt fairly quickly. But today the effort and the endeavour was there to really put a shift in for the team. And then of course, obviously, it's what he offers going forward. It's what excites us as fans, is his ability to stand up any defender. He doesn't respect any defender at the moment within this league. He is prepared to run that man 1v1. He'll run them down. He'll find a way to dink his way into the box, whether that's a little bit of trickery, quick feet, or just that ability to just burn past a player. And again, early phases, Chelsea didn't know what to do with him. They didn't know what the answer was going to be to kind of keep him quiet. So they stand off him, and that was the first big mistake. Once you stand off a player like that with that much ability, he finds the time, he does find the pass in the first instance, and obviously he is kind of responsible for, well, more than kind of responsible. He provides the assist for Ryan Gravenberch's wonderful opening goal for Liverpool. And from a young lad to come into the game and be able to have that much of an impact. It's why fans have been crying out so much this season, as he should be an option for Liverpool. He should be the go-to. He should be the one to either start more games or be the first substitute in big games, certainly. So great performance from Rio. I think he probably did just a little bit lose a little bit of steam. Again, it's understandable with him being a young man. He's not always going to have the energy to do the men's game a full 90 minutes in his locker yet. So it is common and normal for him to just drop off a little bit as the longer the game progresses. I'll be interested to get some of your thoughts on the substitution, mate, because we had a little bit of back and forth over what we think Slot will do, but what we would do. And I think at the time we was both kind of in agreement that we would have probably went like for like. Isak in the middle, Gakpo was through the middle, just do that as the substitution and leave Rio in the game. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, like I say, let's talk about the sub then, because, I mean, Anfield very, very rarely, ever boos a substitution. Very, very, very rarely. And it almost felt like the type of boo where it's like, I've had enough of this one. And if you think of things logically, sometimes you can think, young kids protecting him, yada, 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 Errol. But, yeah, and this isn't, and maybe people are just also fed up with Cody Gakpo a little bit. I think he was isolated up front, no one got on the ball. The same kind of thing happened to Alexander Isak. Yeah. But I think more of it was the case was that, looking at that team before the game, we all kind of knew there's not much in it. Actually, creativity-wise, you probably are going to be looking at Rio Ngumoha, which is harsh on him. Now, again, there might be reasons why he was taken off, but Anfield definitely voiced their displeasure. That is a tough one for a manager to come back from. Like, it's very, very rare. It almost like we've had enough of this bollocks is basically kind of what was being said there. Again, Rio might have been absolutely goosed and he had to come off, but even so, again, I go back to it, mate. It didn't feel like taking your best player off at that moment in time. He didn't look like he couldn't run anymore. In a game where if Liverpool win, everything's boxed off for the future, everything's sorted, Champions League and all that kind of stuff. So the boos were loud and very, very angry. And what were your thoughts on the booing?
Again, I'm never one to love it, but I think we're just at that point in the season where the fans across the board are just a little bit fed up. And like I said before, Rio's the type of fan that he inspires, or the type of player, that inspires the fans to stay invested in the game, to believe that anything can happen and moments of magic can be produced, because this young lad has got that ability at his feet, and fans have got confidence in him being able to deliver that. At the moment, they haven't got confidence that leaving Gakpo on and actually moving him over to the left is going to bear any fruit. So that's where the frustration comes from, and we've seen it time and time again. We've got enough body of work and enough evidence to suggest this season that Rio is the guy to get us off our seats in this Liverpool attack, especially when he gets given an opportunity. He seems to seize it. So yeah, I can understand the frustration from the fans at this moment in time. But again, to your point, I can kind of understand that minutes-wise, he's probably not at the point where he can do 90 minutes week in, week out at any level for from a Liverpool perspective. So we've got to manage those minutes. Likewise, we're managing the minutes of Alexander Isak, Cody Gakpo, for say what you want about his qualities, his ability on the ball. He's got the ability to play 90 minutes most games and most weeks for Liverpool Football Club. So he is going to be a mainstay, whether we like it or not. Slot is going to utilise that asset as a mainstay within the team. I felt that he was very much isolated and he cutted a little bit of a frustrated figure through the middle. I think the thinking from Slot's perspective, if I'm playing devil's advocate, would have been to hopefully get him more of the ball. If he drifted out wide to the left, he'd probably have a little bit more in his legs, considering he hasn't been running to the ground. He hasn't had to do crazy sprints. He's not been trying to isolate his man 1v1. So he's probably got a little bit more in the tank at this stage in the game than Rio, which then hopefully bolsters Liverpool's attack for that last 20, 25 minutes. Now, look, it didn't work, but I could understand if that was the logic that Slot was going with. Right now, it all boils down to the fact that higher ups, the hierarchy, the playing staff, as well as the management staff, they just really struggle to read the room at the moment. Sometimes you just got to do something for the fans, and the fans were crying out for Rio to just get as many minutes as possible today. And yeah, you gave us something, but taking him off in the manner in which you did when you did, it just kind of signified we're throwing up the white towel here, we're throwing up the white flag. We don't think we're going to get the 3 points out of this game, and it's just a case of see this over the line now and we'll take the draw. It's
one of them as well, like in isolation, like taking a kid off to bring on £125 million player, like it makes sense, but yeah, I think also, well, you've got to bear in mind the way the game had gone. Liverpool had started well, and then basically Liverpool had been played off the park a little bit. I'd say the second half of the first half, it was all Chelsea. They get a bit of good fortune with the goal, but equally they had plenty of chances all the way through. So I think a lot of it, and again, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not going to tell people who I'm trying to read exactly what the crowd would think and crowd think, but it did feel like I wanted to half had enough in terms of, well, yeah, the game isn't going well, and by the way, and then you take off our best player. There's been this narrative, and I think we're right, Errol, to say, like, Liverpool, the football club, the higher ups, FSG, Richard Hughes, whoever, they seem keen that they want to give Arne Slot to summer, they want to give Arne Slot a second chance. But when the crowd are booing at full time again, when the crowd are booing a substitution, like it just feels like Liverpool, a lot of Liverpool supporters are fed up. I think that's the 10th time now Liverpool have played at Anfield and not won the game, which is just
unheard of.
It just doesn't really happen.
Yeah, unheard of in the last couple of years.
It just feels like maybe that booing of the sub, which again, in isolation, it's a bit of a nothing thing, but actually it's almost like the culmination of what's just been week in, week out of watching poor performances. If you win, you don't play well, but you win. If you get beat a lot, it feels like it was almost a build up of all of that, and it's come out in one go.
Someone said that we was mid before in the chat. Liverpool are mid, and we're a very, very boring, stale side to watch at the moment. And when you remove the exciting players out of a team to give us more of the same boring and stale football, the fans are going to be frustrated with that. Even if we know we're not, like, you know, we've had years down the line under Rodgers, under Klopp, we weren't necessarily winning things, but the essence and the energy of the entertainment was very well and true alive within whatever squad that they had at the time. And it was a little bit batshit crazy. The scorelines were a little bit mad. But you know what? There was something about those games where you just knew the team were going to put a smile on your face. At this moment in time, there's a couple of players that put a smile on your face. But as a team, as a style, as a way of playing football, as a way of managing football games, it is a tough watch, and I just don't think Liverpool fans have been accustomed to it, which is why we're acting so, you know, did you say the word vitriol before? Mm-hmm. I feel like that's why there's so much of that energy being kind of cast back towards the management and the manager and the way that he's kind of making some decisions that it seems to be very unpopular with the fan base at this moment in time. And he's got to look at that, because like I said, win this game, there's 2 games that you just throw Rio on. Got nothing to lose, nothing to play for. We're in the Champions League. Just play Rio, play today. Just give something back so the people can think, yeah, you know, we're not taking our foot off the gas, but there's young lads there now that are wanting to kick on. That's the succession planning, and they're the things that Liverpool should be capable of being able to do. Again, we're just not able to give ourselves that breathing space because we're not finishing our dinner on our end ourselves, and a lot of that does come from the way the manager is expecting the players to go out and deliver on that pitch.
Do you think, Errol, as well, like the fact that first of all we're having to rely on Rio Ngumoha again? I know there's injuries, I know there's issues, but he was the main creative outlet. That shouldn't be what we're at. But it was. Secondly, it's worth mentioning, Arne Slot mentioned in his press conference after the game, you know, he was asked about the booing of Rio sub, and he said Rio was having problems with his muscles. I asked him whether he could continue, and he said he wasn't sure. I knew this would be the reaction because he is such a good player. So often in football, people don't know everything. I am the manager, and I make the decisions. Knowing why it makes more sense, people, I understand it, and I get it. If Rio was absolutely done in, you've got to take him off the pitch. What I would say though, Errol, it's worth it. I'm not focusing on the sub as a whole. I'm just thinking about the mood of Anfield, because sometimes if you've had enough, basically you're fed up, sometimes you just do things that are a bit, you say something you shouldn't say, you shouldn't really boo without knowing the full facts. But I go back to it just feels like there's a lot of supporters inside the stadium, actually all over the world, whether it be in our chats or wherever. People are just a bit fed up, and Rio going off because he's tired after having a good game makes sense. But again, I'll go back to it. It's almost an outpouring of emotion, maybe at the wrong time, but people feel like I'm going to go now because I'm so wound up by what I'm watching.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think it is. It's all of everything you just said, and the reality is that's just where Liverpool find themselves at this moment in time. The manager's already going to expect it. The fans, we expected it. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like it was a shock. We expected it to be Rio, and again, it was probably for the reasons that we mentioned, which Slaughter's then later on confirmed. So it's not wild. It's just the state of affairs at Liverpool Football Club at the moment. It stinks. There's a bad smell. There's a bad odour, and it's just lingering around far too long. And unfortunately, the fans are now attuned to it. They've smelled, they've woke up, they've smelled the coffee and decided actually, yeah, this isn't a bit of us. So there will be continuous groans, boos, more signs of frustration, I'm sure, in the digital online space and as well as the physical in the ground. And Liverpool are going to have to find a way to navigate themselves through that situation and come out the other side in a much stronger, healthier, and hopefully playing a better brand of football, mate. I think that's what it boils down to. I can accept not being the best in class, but the brand of footy's got to be there. The brand of footy's got to be half decent. It's got to be half something I can go to bat for. I struggle to go to bat for this team in the brand of footy that we're playing at the moment. I'll be dead honest, and you know I can be very positive at times. But as a brand of football, just possession for possession's sake, control for control's sake, like, yeah, it's not enthralling stuff, I'll be honest, but I'm happy to move on.
Let's do that. Yeah, thanks everyone. If you're watching this as a clip or listening to us as a clip, go and join us on the Redmen Plus app. We're going to go and rank every other one of Liverpool's players today based on your rankings. Thanks very much. Catch you guys all later. That was a clip from our player ranking show. To check out the full show, head on over to the Redmen Plus app.